Mr. Entwistle, do you now accept, in the light of last night's panorama, that the decision to drop the Newsnight investigation was a catastrophic mistake?
I came away from the panorama firmly of the view that that investigation, even if it, in the judgment of the editor, it wasn't ready for transmission at the point he was looking at it, should have been allowed to continue.
Why did it take 3 weeks for the BBC to realise that the account given by Mr. Rippon was inaccurate and incomplete?
When you want to find out why a programme has done an investigation, in my long experience of the BBC, the person you go to is the editor of the programme containing that investigation, or the commissioning editor of that investigation, because they are the people, they know why, they should know why they commissioned the piece, and they should have the most complete picture of why they commissioned the piece. Now, what became clear to us after the blog was published was that that what had happened on Newsnight was that there was a significant, it seemed, difference of opinion between the people working on the investigation and the editor, Peter Rippon, who commissioned the investigation. And that difference of opinion was made clear to me relatively soon after the blog was published the following week. And at that point I thought, well, I although I would normally absolutely expect to be able to get from the editor of a programme a complete and full picture of what had been going on that programme, I thought I needed to get to the bottom of why there seemed to be a difference of opinion. And there definitely seems to me to have been a breakdown in communication on Newsnight in that regard.
So what did you do to get to the bottom of it?
So I asked my colleague Ken Macquarie, who sits on the BBC's management board, to speak to the two journalists involved to get a sense of what they thought had happened.
But this was nearly 3 weeks ago, and the BBC only changed its story yesterday in light of the Panorama programme.
So Ken Macquarie spoke to the two journalists in question, and then wrote me a note, and this takes us towards the end of the week, ending the 12th, or the middle of the week ending the 12th. And I read that note, and I thought I no longer felt confident that to get a full understanding of what had happened on Newsnight would be possible to do inside the BBC. And I concluded from that I needed to move to an external investigation an external review of what was happening on Newsnight.
Did you ever consider talking to Liz McKean and Myron Jones? These are ex-colleagues of yours.
They are ex-colleagues of mine, and I thought it was important in my position as the Director General to be able to maintain sufficient distance from any allegations people were making, any accounts people were giving, to be allowed to review them properly myself rather than being pulled into them, which is why I asked Mr Macquarie to have those conversations on my behalf.
But what about your news managers? What about Helen Bowden and her deputy? Well, it's their job, surely, to get to the bottom of this dispute very, very quickly.
My anxiety, and the reason I asked Mr Macquarie to do it, was that the journalists on Newsnight may have things to say about the overall chain of news management that they wouldn't feel able to say in news management. That's why I wanted to create a separate chance for them to do that.